attacks, banditry, and kidnappings continue to affect communities across the country. Beyond the tragic loss of lives, analysts warn that insecurity is now shaping nearly every aspect of national life, from economic activity and education to politics and public confidence in government. Former presidential candidate Peter Obi has warned that the repeated failure to protect citizens reflects a deeper leadership crisis and has called for an urgent national response to what he describes as a growing security emergency. As pressure mounts on Nigeria's security institutions, the international dimension is also evolving, with the United States increasing security cooperation and deploying military advisors to support counter-terrorism efforts. So what exactly is driving Nigeria's worsening insecurity? Are current strategies working? And what must change to restore stability? Well, I'm now joined by a man who has experience to answer these questions, retired Major General Anthony Atolagbe. He's a former field commander of the Special Task Force Operation Safe Haven. He's also a security consultant for AU and ECOWAS. Glad to have you join me.
Good evening, viewers.
Yeah, let's start this conversation this way. When you say expand military presence and stronger border controls to restore safety in especially vulnerable communities and unmanned spaces, some would say, what do you even mean? Others would say it's been same sounds, Nigerians have been hearing over the years, and yet the security seems to be worsening.
If I'm to start this from my own perspective, I am aware that there are policy directives emanating from higher or superior offices within the Federation. And these directives are supposed to be broken into implementation strategies. So when it comes to strategies, you now come and start bringing down to operational directives, which goes to military commanders, police commanders, and so on. So you will recall that there has been several policies put in place in the area of generating more troops, use of, training of forest guards, as well as the expansion of the police fold on the ground. And then we talk about also relieving them of the duties that they are doing in the area of doing escorts and so on. So from the perspective of who is giving the directive, that is perhaps from the president's office, he is aware that there are going to be more hands that are going to be generated. I'll give you an example of what the army is doing, for instance. Before now, we used to have just one training depot in Nigeria, and that is still in Zaria. But as I speak, 2 additional training areas have been added.
Is that enough?
One is in Oshobo. It depends on the number of troops that have been trained. We see them turning out about 6,000 from one depot in 6 months. So you are looking at, if you put together, you are looking at 18 in 6 months, 18,000. And then in 1 year, you are talking about 36,000. So you see that some of these directives are also backed by the action that is actually expected of the various services and the security agencies that are carrying out these operations. So you now see a situation where by the time this training is completed, more of the ungoverned spaces are going to be taken. The forest guard are already there. They have spread them out into some areas already within the country. We don't have to start mentioning the locations. And then you now also see a situation where as it concerns the policing, because what is supposed to happen is that we graduate the battle space in such a way that there are threats that are beyond perhaps what the police can contain, that it's not just the military that will be able to take on those areas. And those are the kind of actions that you see taking place in Sambisa right now, in another location called Timbuktu Triangle. And this particular operation that is ongoing provides the avenue for clearance operations. In the process of the clearance operations, a lot of people, like I am aware that just in the last 1 week, about 6 locations have been cleared. And I also know that about more than 23 strongholds of the Boko Haram elements are also, they have been cleared from some of those locations. So you now see a situation where we used to have a situation before, whereby we clear some places and then we keep moving forward without generally occupying these locations. By the time these troops are inserted now, any place that is cleared is also occupied. So we now see a situation where, based on the graduation that I talked about, military continue to move into the tougher spaces. Then the counter-terror police also move into perhaps the next level, maybe at level 4, where military is at level 5. And then you see at level 3 also, maybe a combined military and police or NSCDC working together. So these are some of the conditions you will start seeing on the ground as soon as these troops are being turned out.
Interesting. Yes. When you paint this picture, it sounds so, I don't know whether to say comforting or nice to the ears. But the Nigerian military has lost at least 3 commanding officers in charge of forward operations bases following attacks by Boko Haram and ISWAP at different locations within a 7-day period in Borno State. This brings to 7 the number of commanding officers and 1 brigadier general reportedly killed within the last 3 months. So what is really happening? I mean, Nigerians are asking, if soldiers are not safe, who then is?
Well, I think that is from the perspective of a civilian, because we are paid to do this job, and anything could also happen. Imagine that without necessarily going into the front to go and confront someone, a bomb just drops at a location where the commanding officer is. These are some conditions that present itself in such a manner that there are situations you can't explain, because they're just bound to happen. Yeah, it is true that we have some losses, okay, but still, when you look at some of the gains also on the part of the military, you will be able to say, okay, I can consolidate and see how I can do better in some of the. Take for instance, in the last 2 months, the most senior, the deputy commander of the Boko Haram was taken out. And then there are 2 other prominent commanders who were also taken out. So you now see a situation where, although I will not rule out that there will be some errors, but then you look at a situation where, if you look at a battalion deployment, for instance, there could be a situation where, look, you are going on an operation and perhaps you can, we say that the enemy is as trained as ourselves.
The enemy is what?
Is as trained. We should always assume that the enemy is as trained as ourselves. So you now see a situation where some of these people, we have seen where some of them are trained and where they are coming from, to the extent that they know how to conduct ambushes and the rest of them. You understand? So, because as you mentioned in the case of the general, those are the type of conditions.
Let me even help you. That would take this discussion further. Nigeria's military has killed 45 bandits after they allegedly tried to steal a herd of cattle, according to local officials. This was after an initial attempt by the bandits on Thursday, which members of the local community helped repel. It happened on Thursday. They repelled them. Then on Friday, the army came in and this number of bandits were killed. But then this calls to question the need for an organized policy to involve locals in this fight. I don't know what you're going to say about that.
Okay, if we start taking tolls as it pertains to casualties, you will see that we may not be able to put the figures together completely, because I'm aware that in this clearance operation that is actually ongoing, more than 50 militants or militiamen have been eliminated, bodies recovered. Okay, and we are talking about a situation where you are actually going in pursuit of these Boko Haram elements and ISWAP, and then you keep taking them out, and perhaps you are not even able to get all the bodies at the same time. But as per the number counted, as at this evening, I'm giving you the figures. Okay, so you now see a situation where the troops are actually gaining grounds. The terrorists are being dislodged. They are moving into other locations, and you now see a situation where even those that have not been reached out to right now are panicking, because I will still take you that there are other areas. You have a place they call Mandarin Mountains. So that kind of place is actually dominated by some of them. Several efforts have been made to dislodge them, but because of the nature of the terrain around the area.
In fact, before I take the statement of the cleric on intelligence and P2B on leadership crisis,
yes, sir.
Describing the killings of senior military officers as a worrying trend, security expert and former director of the DSS, Mike Ejiofor, said that both short and long-term measures were required or are required to address the country's security challenges. He says the long-term will be people or citizens or people who live in the community volunteering credible information to security agencies. He says the long-term will be to defeat banditry, Boko Haram and terrorism, by establishing state police. What do you make of that combination? And the fact he said that this is a worrying trend.
Well, from the very last question before this one, which has to do with the community, involvement of the community people, the experience on the field has been that due to several threats that the people have encountered in the past, they are so scared of volunteering information, because they look at a situation where they could be sleeping at night and somebody just bumps into them and comes. So it's not as if they are not prepared. And, the military has a mechanism which actually makes them to have some interactions with the civilians, wherever. We do something we call the quick impact projects, which actually warms the military into the hearts of the populace when they move into a new location. So you now see a situation whereby, to some extent, they gain some grounds with the populace. But because of some of the activities of these guys who loiter or just bump into them, either through ambushes or walk into the village sometimes and take them out, so, these are some of the things that actually prevents them from volunteering information. And according to...
You talked about long-term.
Yes. So
establishing state police.
So talking about long-term, I mean, we are all within the hard space now. We had a president making it point clear that state police. And I keep saying something, that over the years, a lot of our leaders have failed to take this step. And for the fear that perhaps if you make it possible, then they will be arresting opposition, or they will be doing something contrary to what the federal police will be doing. When we look at trends or how it is done in other countries, we can just go and study and borrow from the way some of these things, rather than exercising unnecessary fear and not actually doing what we need to do to make sure that people are secured. You can bet me that with the number of people that are going to be recruited now, based on perhaps the projections by the security elements within the various states, you now see a situation where this is going to actually help us to cover a lot of open spaces, especially within the communities. And then we'll now be able to say, okay, fine, if we're able to have this level of foot on the ground in the various communities, and these are people that are going to be recruited within the communities anyway, and then they know the people, they know who to interact with, they are relating with the traditional rulers, they are relating with all the religious leaders and so on, those who are in authority within the communities, they are able to relate with them. And then we now see a situation where timely information is gotten, and then this information is also shared perhaps with the higher level. Yes, to help.
Now more than the narratives. More than 300, just give me a second, more than 300 people, including women and children, have been abducted by Islamic militants who attacked on Goshe, that's in Borno State, on Friday, just this past Friday. Reports say it was a retaliation for the killing of the 3 commanders of the Boko Haram militant group by Nigeria's military that you were talking about earlier on. And then Peter Obi, a former presidential candidate, is warning that the repeated failure to protect citizens reflects a deeper leadership crisis and is calling for an urgent national response to what he describes a growing security emergency.
Okay, you are right that there were some, but I'm not sure the figure is right.
What, between 100 and 300?
Okay, so based on what I have. But what I can say also is that I will not be able to dwell on specifics.
Yeah.
But in Sambisa, some abducted people were freed. In fact, the first thing that happened was that over 100 of them escaped based on the hit that was brought on the adversary. And then after that, as the movement continued, you now saw a situation where more and more people, so you now see a situation in which across the entire space within the country, as reported by DHQ, about 460 or 500 people have been freed just in the last 2 months. Okay, so it is true that refugees, people are abducted.
Yeah.
And I can just paint a scenario and make you to understand how such things happen. Now, what is playing out is that these guys are being dislodged. And when they are dislodged and they lose contact with all these women and these men that are running, who are sex slaves and laborers for them within the theater or wherever they are in their enclaves, what happens is that they try to move to other locations where they think they will be safe. And the next thing is to start looking for who they can also grab and bring into their own, into their new locations. Now, that is on one side. The other side is that it is also another strategy by those that are expecting the arrival of the military that are coming into their enclave to come and chase them out, by using some of these people as human shield when they approach their location. So you see that the analysis has brought it out that they have a pattern that they always want to take people into their enclave, not just to use them as slaves or whatever, but then they also want to use them as shields, so that they will be able to negotiate and prevent further assaults on them.
Now that you have talked about that, General.
Yes, sir.
How about, and this is really disturbing, and I've had to raise it now and then, how about arresting and prosecuting the perpetrators of these dastardly acts? You say rescue missions prioritize saving hostages over killing or arresting kidnappers. So the question is, when will killing and arresting and prosecuting these people and their sponsors become a priority for this government, or for any government for that matter?
Okay, you are aware of the arrangements.
Because we hear of kidnappers, we hear of people rescued.
Yes,
but we hear nothing, absolutely nothing, of the people who are perpetrating these acts, and it begs the question, really.
I think specifically you are dwelling on kidnapping now. Because in the case of...
We're talking insecurity, that's part of it.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. But I am trying to say that as it relates to kidnapping,
Yeah.
we saw a scenario that played out in Niger State, in which the children were freed. And we're saying, is it okay for us to just go on an assault to that location with 300 and something children under captivity? Or is it easy for us to first of all take them out and then we go after these people? Now, what I can say is this. Last year, Nigeria is supposed to launch about 4 satellites, because these are the things that are going to help us out. And one of them, you will ask me, what the past government, what have they been waiting for when we have this level of insecurity and we've not been able to actually have one that we can use to cover the entire space?
The questions that Nigerians are asking, you're asking yourself.
Do you get me? So you now see a situation. I mean, so I'm explaining. Among these 4 satellites, one of them is actually designed for the security of this nation. And when it is launched, you can almost pick everything.
Now, you have raised a very important...
You can almost pick everything. You can pick car number plates. You can pick people from their houses. Simple the tech I was using when I was SCF commander. I walk into people to their rooms to go and pick them. This equipment are available.
So why are we not using them? But before you answer that question, let me raise this issue with you. Former Chief of Defense Staff Christopher Musa strongly advocated fencing Nigeria's borders with 4 countries to curb insecurity. I don't want to waste time calling the countries. Yes. Terrorism and arms smuggling using Saudi Arabia and Pakistan models. That's what he said. You have also described Nigeria's vast borders as an obstacle to effective control. Is it that we're big on talk and Lilliputian on action? Why hasn't this been implemented?
Okay. With all the, with all the sense of, perhaps, let me say, being modest.
Yeah.
I know that in this country, one of the things that we always fail to do is to get something started. For instance, you tell a governor that there's a 200-kilometer road within the state. He tells you that that is too much for my budget. I cannot do it. Have you even done 1 kilometer? Okay, so if, for instance, somebody in the position of the CDS then, who is now the ministers, which actually positioned him enough to be able to send this message across now, and we say, look, let us lay the foundation if we see it working elsewhere. Because I will tell you, I've been to all this, the whole of this northern axis. It's just a free field. You can drive through. You can take this lane. You can take this lane. That's you even bothering yourself to go through the border. Somebody will look at you like, yeah, this man is stupid. So you now see a situation where, why don't we just start with the first 1 kilometer? And then we'll be able to say, okay, other governments that are coming in, they will do the next 20, then other... So these are some of the problems. But
start with what you have, where you are, and then project.
Exactly. So, okay, like even the case of the state police, the thing we are talking about, if you felt that it was so difficult, have you been able to, to open up and say, okay, let us recruit more hands so that we can have enough spread across the space? It was not done. We were just still doing the regular recruitment thing, which was not supposed to be the case. So we see a situation where somehow things are beginning to take shape. I don't know if they have the finances to do it, but I will still encourage that.
Is it really taking shape?
Yes.
Well, insecurity seems to be worsening.
But there are pronouncements that, look, do this.
That's why I said we're bigger.
Do this. I heard you.
Yeah.
I heard you. But this thing don't transform overnight.
Okay, let me ask you this question before.
Yes.
Is it possible? Because you talked about, okay, you have 300 school children arrested. You have to prioritize saving them to prosecuting and catching the criminals. What are we really doing about preventing this series of attacks, whether it's on civilians or the military, So they don't get to have the advantage of negotiating, because when we negotiate, we eventually give them money and they go back and acquire equipment and they come back and repeat the same thing and we're back to square A.
Yeah, these are debatable assertions, because when people say certain things are being done, government says it's not done. We may not be able to know the position to take on that. But
I can tell you that I've been close to people who have experienced this thing, and I'm talking empirically.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to say that, look, as far as the military is concerned, as far as the security agencies are concerned, what actually is being expected of them now is just to take in more troops, occupy the space, occupy the space, then take in more policemen, let them be dispersed enough within the Nigerian territory. And we're not talking about just starting to train and stopping. We're talking about a continuous kind of training. We are not even talking about where are they going to stay if the whole operation subsides. We are just pumping them into the field now, and to make sure that the space is well occupied. If this is done, if forest guard is there, if state police is there, if the military is increased, if the police is taken away from the jobs that they are doing, and another 50,000 of them is trained and pushed.
He doesn't go alone to negotiate. He goes with the police, the military, and other security agencies. Yeah, what do you think about this?
I've spoken about Gumi before. And if you remember exactly what I said, that he's not a foolish man as people think he is. He's actually a smart person. He might be smart for different reasons, and he might be egregious in his ways. And I just told you what I always known. He's not telling you anything new. All these terrorists are in bed with people in government. Whenever there is mass kidnapping, why do you think that government is able to hear from the terrorists? Because they have their phone numbers. If they call one side, the one in Niger, those ones, we give them the telephone number of the one in Katsina. They say, no, it's not us, so it's our friends in Katsina that did it. That's how they know. Gumi is not lying. There's no major terrorist, and there's no major criminal in Nigeria that is not known to security agencies. But you even find kidnappers doing MCs at the children naming ceremony of police commissioners in Nigeria. They know themselves. They help themselves. I once told you last year that there's a guy who is into fraud that was given an office at the Nigeria Police Headquarters, one Jesha. So how he's not lying. They know all the terrorists. If they want to wipe out the terrorists today, they know where to get them and wipe them out. They know it. I'm not in government, and I'm not any of the security agencies, but I also know that government knows these terrorists. In fact, so many of the terrorists, they call up people in government when they are bored and say, what's happening now? We haven't been allowing us to operate. We want you to leave some areas for us. So it's very true. He's not lying. And that is why we always say that government in this country is a crime. People in government, yes.
What is the reaction to the Nigerian spokesperson that trying to defend himself? He's trying to defend the government that has already rubbished before the international team.
We are talking about Daniel Bwala. So my own position is different from everybody. Everybody is talking about Bwala as if it is possible to defend Tinubu. It's not possible. Bwala is just trying, and you see, it doesn't have to even be with the Al Jazeera guy. But the other thing that surprises me is that, are you expecting Bwala to be successful? All of you are asking us, so if Bwala had been able to present the case very well, would you give him a Nobel Prize? So everybody's making it sound like, oh, he failed. Well, if you are not a failure, why would you join the Tinubu regime in the first place? All of them are in the same WhatsApp group. So you don't want Bwala to fail? That's what surprised me about some opposition people. Their reaction is as if we are expecting Bwala to just go there and just defeat and perform and present Nigeria as an Eldorado where Nigeria is falling apart. It's impossible, So that's why it surprises me that this is my first comment on Boala's gift. It's not possible to defend Tinubu anywhere. Even if Boala met a secondary school boy, he would say, I've defeated him. In this age of Google and AI, you can Google and find on AI in Nigeria what is happening as it is happening. Now you can use it to confront any of these guys, you know. But the problem that most people have is that you must understand that the Boalas of this world, the Reno Mockeries of this world, it is hunger that drove them to go to the government. So what do you expect them to do? They have to defend their bellies and their esophagus. That's what took them there. Forget about everything they tell you that, oh, I have a flourishing law practice. Now this thing. But if your law practice is flourishing, what are you doing rubbishing yourself and your generations yet unborn? Nobody would do that. Definitely something is not flourishing in your life. That's why you're working with Tinubu. And lastly, I'm even sure that Tinubu himself is surprised that Boala did so terribly bad. But we may not also be surprised that for them, every publicity is good publicity, whether it's good or bad. So they might be praising him. Who knows? With regards to the organ harvesting case, as I told you earlier before the judge came, there is a police report. The Nigeria Police Inspector General's office actually instituted a panel to uncover what was going on after the uproar stemming from the publications on, I think, Gist Lover, one of the online blogs. And there was a report, but they buried the report because the policemen involved were very highly connected. And but the report, I got hold of some part of the report and was published yesterday. And the report, even though it was trying very hard to indict this fellow, it also went ahead to disclose 11 deaths in 2022 alone, carried out by these policemen at Akunzu, RRS. And the police never did anything about it. I also mentioned earlier that all the persons indicted in that report have either been promoted or even been given juicier positions. In fact, the fellow whose case led to the arrest of, who was arrested for being a member of IPOP, has also been freed on bail. He has been traveling between Turkey and Nigeria doing his business. So the only person that's still left in detention is the whistleblower, this youth corper who wanted to serve his country. That's why a lot of people hate serving Nigeria, because Nigeria will do you dirty. So that's where we are as far as that issue is concerned. We are pushing to ensure that he's released, and we have asked the new Inspector General of Police, Tunji Disu, to intervene immediately, not to pretend like he didn't see this case, and to intervene in other cases, all these needless and unwarranted arrests, detention and prosecution of persons who are merely expressing themselves. We have asked him to quash all these cases. There's a case of another woman in Lagos, Maureen Badejo, who is a blogger from the UK. The police authorities there connive with pastors, Pastor Suleiman, Apostle Sule woman, you know, and another apostle, another priest in Lagos, Daniel Olukoya, Dr. Daniel Olukoya, to arrest this woman. And the woman was taken to the magistrate court. The magistrate granted her bail. She didn't run away. She went back before a federal high court. The federal high court, by Justice Akintayo Aluko, sent her to detention. You don't detain somebody when they have been granted bail. And the essence of granting bail is that the person will come back. It's not punishment. And we have asked Disu, I call him Disu, to immediately discontinue all these rubbish cybercrime cases and stop the police from engaging in harassing people in the name of cybercrime. The country is in need of repolicing. As I'm talking to you, Maiduguri has been encircled by Boko Haram.
Yes.
It's a matter of time before Maiduguri falls if something serious is not done. And your policemen are here paying attention to rubbish. You all are aware, when I said it last time, that a lot of states are going to be besieged by terrorists and bandits. Terrorists is what we know them as, but when they call them bandits, just to make you feel a little better. But they do the same thing. Now, these bandits have reached Ondo State. They have reached Edo State. They have almost taken over Northern Kwara. They have reached Kogi State. The biggest terrorist camps in the country are very close to here, Suleja. And also, another huge one is in, what's this place called? Bajana. In Kogi State. So even Abuja, all of you who are walking around thinking that you have security, Abuja is not safe. Because if the chips are down, the rich people will just use their own personal security to escape. They will leave the ordinary people to suffer their own fate. It is happening, and that's why police must be serious work at this time. Anybody who is in the police force, who is going after people who kill chicken, somebody's collected somebody's wife or girlfriend, it's rubbish policing, and all those people should be fished and pushed out of the police force. And I'm using the opportunity to also talk to the guy who is in charge of the legal department in the police, one AIGI now, who I have spoken to personally to discontinue these trials. But I heard that because he's a pastor himself, he wants to help his fellow pastors to prosecute people. And I'm wondering, what are all these pastors? Why do they believe in God if God cannot fight for them? Why? Throughout the reign of Satan, and Satan is still reigning, Satan has never used the police to arrest anybody. Satan don't even trust Nigeria police. Why would you be using police, which is even by biblical standard, Nigeria police is a satanic agency. I'm not saying it just for the sake of saying it, but if you know what policemen do, even God, when God sees what Nigeria police does to his own creation, God himself shakes in his boots. How can pastors then go near such an agency to help them fight ordinary people? The pastor should be fighting the police to reform and sanitize the police. But pastors are deploying police to fight innocent people. That tells you the state of religion in this country as well. Most of these religious leaders, I'm not sorry to say it, they don't believe in God. They are just using God to make money. God is a hustle for them. Otherwise, how can you believe in God and you go and ask police to help you arrest somebody? Instead of you to just ask God to arrest the person. And there's nothing God cannot do. What God cannot do does not exist. I know what they say. So why don't they trust God to fight their battles and they go to police, a godless organization, to go and carry out this fight for them? Yes.
Okay, so, the Electoral Act now stipulates that certificate forgery cannot stop a politician from contesting for office. If they come and they have forged certificates, they cannot stop it.
What do you expect when the president of the country, Nigeria, cannot trace where he got his certificate from? He can't. There's nobody who knows where Tinubu graduated from. Only Tinubu himself knows the university he graduated from, the university he went to secondary school at, the university where the primary school he went to. So it's natural that certificate forgery will no longer be a crime. It's going to get to a point where everything you think is a crime will no longer be a crime in this country, including drug peddling. They will soon tell you that it's not a crime to carry cocaine and distribute heroin. That anybody that's doing it is doing legitimate business. So that is why I'm not surprised to hear that certificate forgery, because most of the people in leadership in Nigeria forge their certificates. That's the truth. Tinubu, nobody knows where his certificate came from. Wike has 2 birthdays as a person. Nobody can tell you that this is how Wike actually, where the year he graduated from law school. Everybody's just saying that Wike is a lawyer, Wike is a lawyer. And you cannot hear any case that Wike has ever won before as a lawyer. You talk about Akpabio, I think he's a lawyer too. Maybe those ones, I don't know. But anytime you see them, in the political circle just know that they have done something funny and fake with regards to their certificates. So you have a lot of them like that in the system that can't prove to you where they genuinely went to school and who their classmates are and how they graduated. Most of them graduated, they didn't do NYC. And they went and forged the certificates, NYC discharge certificate. I did NYC, I wasn't given a certificate, but I didn't forge the certificate. They are still with it today. I say when they are tired, they'll give it to me. But you have said that APC people is always against rule of law. They're against fairness, they're against transparency. That's what the party represents, so I'm not surprised. But even Tinubu himself, when he was still part of, when he was living the fake of a pro-democracy activist, he was accused of treason. And people defended him at that time to say, look, if you are accused of treason, which is the same thing the soldiers are accused of, you should be given fair trial. Abiola was accused of treason. He was granted bail. It's one of the most popular cases we cite when we are asking for bail for accused persons. That the fact that you are accused of a capital offense does not make you automatically guilty. And anybody who has been accused of treason, if there is a treason case, you should allow them to prepare for trial. Under the military, everybody accused of treason was allowed to defend themselves. And you see them, they will show them, they allow their families to visit with them. So why should we be under democracy and people are accused of any offense for that matter? And we already presume that they are guilty because we are accused of it. So what happens to presumption of innocence? So I don't pay attention to all those APC people. They should be careful. And it's very important. One day they will be out of office. They will be accused of offenses and they will not be running after looking for Shore to come and help them fight for their innocence. We just talked about Malamitu here, who was here today. That's how they used to behave. They will grant people bail, they will be cordial, and they will not respect it. Now, they're asking for respect for rule of law. The same thing with Rufai. When he was governor in his state, they did as if the world started and ended with them. Now, they're asking for the rule of law, transparency. They're asking for fair trial. What we are asking for is fair trial. And if you don't have any case against them, just swallow your pride and let them go. It's as simple as that. But they know the game they are playing. Because if they've been detained for 5 months, now going to 6 months, and you claim publicly that you have already concluded your investigation, put them on trial. There's no big deal about that.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
The U.S., we spoke earlier about insecurity and how it's affecting people. And the U.S. has warned of terror attack in Nigeria on their Nigerian embassy. Do you think they are trying to move this war to Nigeria, or it's just attacking?
The U.S. don't need to tell you that there will be a terrorist attack before you should know there will be. I just mentioned to you, Maiduguri is surrounded, Abuja is surrounded, Lagos probably they already have like many cells there. So the U.S. don't need to tell you anything to know that. And as to whether the attack on Iran Donald Trump has already started a third world war. He just hasn't announced it. Because anytime you have this scale of attack, when you are using weapons that have never been introduced before, everybody in the world will be alarmed and they are all joining somehow. Everybody is already allied in a way. So, and to say that, to be asking whether Nigeria is part of Nigeria was introduced into Donald Trump's war in December 2025. He bombed without notification, he bombed Nigeria. What do they call war other than that? Just wake up on Christmas Day and somebody threw a bomb into your country. If we had capacity and we had leadership, do you think we would not be at war with America by now? We would have thrown a bomb back too. If we had the capacity like Iran, we would have thrown some bomb, but we don't have any bombs that is functioning. They have embezzled the money for everything. So if Nigeria were to be Iran, do you think we will not respond on the 25th? We would have responded. So we are already involved in the war. We are just managing our own low-key because we don't have the capacity to fight an open-ended war.
Yes.
Lastly, sir, what do you have to say about the removal of Fakorede from his office in the police force?
You know, those ones are like things I don't pay too much attention. They are temporary. It's just like the removal of my Boy Scout friend, Ben 1010, what do they call it name? Who came to do CWS in Abuja. He's the industrial attachment, 6 months is gone. But the only thing I have to say is that these are individuals that I've had cause to warn. When Ben 1010 was coming to Abuja, this palace jester had just left, Muyiwa Adejobi. And I warned him, I said, look, if you come and do the nonsense Muyiwa was doing here, because I see him and Muyiwa, they're like sidekicks. You know, I said, if you come and do it, you'll be disgraced. And that's what came to pass. And he made one of the greatest blunders in his life, defending somebody who you didn't have to defend. Victor Agbetokun is not a member of the police force. Why are you defending that he got 100 million naira accidentally into his account? Why didn't I get the money deposited accidentally into my account? But because they're all stupid people. With regards to Fakorede hasn't met even what is coming his way yet. And that's what I want to say. He was the one who, by the way, in September got the contract to arrest me, prosecute me. I was one who sent a CBSP to come and break my hand at the FID. And I remember when we were doing the interrogation, I said, Fakorede, I know you very well because I know that you went and took this contract. You went to meet the IG that I can handle Showore. So this is the last job you will do before you will go down. And, you know, he's a very pompous guy because he's also a lawyer. He's a guy that's been in this impunity for a long time. He has done SARS before. They've killed people and gotten away with it, you know. He used to be in Port Harcourt defending Amechi versus... So he's very, very well versed in impunity. And his reply was that there's nothing. He said, you don't know me. I will show you who I am. I said, no problem. So by the time we were done with that case, he knew that it was a different situation. But of course, this guy was still there, Egwetokun. So it was same Fakorede that then went and applied to get all my bank accounts, if you guys remember, so that he can use it to blackmail me. I told him again, Fakorede, this is going to be your last assignment. He refused to listen. When he went and arrested the Tracy Nita, I called him. I said, Fakorede, release this woman now. I went there. I saw him personally. Fakorede, I kept warning you. Stop being an asshole. Of course, he said, no, nothing will happen because it's like he takes contracts to do dirty jobs. And I reminded him again. I said, I have told you there will be an end to this. The first phase of his end has come because he's no longer in the IGP. But we are monitoring to ensure his next posting. You can't trust the police. They might even take him to a better place where he can do a better dirty job. Because they're always looking for people who can do dirty jobs. So we'll wait until he gets his next posting. And privately, I sent me a message that I should look out for his next posting. If it is not traffic, we have a problem with it. If it's not controlling traffic in Abuja, just so that you know, Fakorede, if your next posting is not about controlling traffic in Abuja, we will have a problem with you. But I would advise, if I were to be you, it's time to retire from the police and wait for comeuppance, because one day you have to answer for your crimes. That's all I can say.
Just before you go,
Yeah.
2027 is around the corner. What Nigeria expects
The political space is not different from the security space. It's not different from the economic space. You see that typically when elections are less than a year away, Nigerians are excited. But nobody's talking about elections because nobody's expecting much. People are, and you saw that during the FCT elections. People didn't go out to vote. Elections are practically less than 8 months away. It's next January, and this is March.
16.
Yes.
16 of January.
Yes. And nobody is talking about elections. Nobody's talking about... but we hope that Nigerians can also use this as an opportunity to take decisive action against the political class. When I say political class, you know what I mean. Before you say that Showore is a politician, no, I'm not in a political class of the politicians that you know. I am a political activist who wants the country to change in a revolutionary way. So, but I just hope that Nigerians can join hands and just disgrace all these people out of the system. But in the midst of it, there's insecurity that we've probably never seen in a long time. There's massive economic problems. People can't feed, can't send their children to school. People can't take care of themselves health-wise. Everything has fallen apart. And on top of that, I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with Nigeria. This is a time that there's crisis, but you don't even see the president of the country. Everybody knows, you can't tell where the president is. You know? Because as I usually say, and it's not usually, it's the truth, all of them are sick, particularly the president. They're sick. But instead of them to admit that, look, there's nothing wrong with being sick. Even as younger people, when we have malaria, we can't function. If you are sick, just let just let the country, you can't tie the country down to your health. Nigeria has gone that for too long. We had Yaradua, we had Buhari, we've had Babangida, who was governing the country with one leg in those days. But like I said, it's not mockery. There's nothing wrong with being sick, but there's something wrong with being sick and holding your country to ransom with your own personal sickness. So that's what I'll tell you. But politically, you will hear from us, but not in the way that you are used to. Thank you very much. Now.
Sheikh Gumi has just said that the federal government knows all these terrorists by their names, and he does not go alone to negotiate. He goes with the police, the military, and other security agencies. Yeah, what do you think about this? Because the federal government...
I've spoken about Sheikh Gumi before, and if you remember exactly what I said, that he's not a foolish man as people think he is. He's actually a smart person. He might be smart for different reasons, and he might be egregious in his ways. And I just told you what I always known. He's not telling you anything new. All these terrorists are in bed with people in government. Whenever there is mass kidnapping, why do you think that government is able to hear from the terrorists? Because they have their phone numbers. If they call one side, the one in Niger, those ones will give them the telephone number of the one in Katsina. They say, no, it's not us, so it's our friends in Katsina that did it. That's how they know. Gumi is not lying. There's no major terrorist, and there's no major criminal in Nigeria that is not known to security agencies. But you even find kidnappers doing MCs at the children naming ceremony of police commissioners in Nigeria. They know themselves. They help themselves. I once told you last year that there's a guy who is into fraud that was given an office at the Nigeria Police Headquarters, one Jesha. So how he's not lying. They know all the terrorists. If they want to wipe out the terrorists today, they know where to get them and wipe them out. They know it. I'm not in government, and I'm not any of the security agencies, but I also know that government knows these terrorists. In fact, so many of the terrorists, they call up people in government when they are bored and say, what's happening now? We haven't been allowing us to operate. We want you to leave some areas for us. So it's very true. He's not lying. And that is why we always say that government in this country is a crime. People in government, yes.
What
the
is
US
the reaction to the Nigerian spokesperson that trying to defend himself? He's trying to defend the government that has already rubbished before the international team.
We are talking about Daniel Bwala. So my own position is different from everybody. Everybody is talking about Bwala as if it is possible to defend Tinubu. It's not possible. Bwala is just trying, and you see, it doesn't have to even be with the Al Jazeera guy. But the other thing that surprises me is that, are you expecting Bwala to be successful? All of you are asking us, so if Bwala had been able to present the case very well, would you give him a Nobel Prize? So everybody's making it sound like, oh, he failed, he failed. Well, if you are not a failure, why would you join the Tinubu regime in the first place? All of them are in the same WhatsApp group. So you don't want Boala to fail? That's what surprised me about some opposition people. Their reaction is as if we are expecting Boala to just go there and just defeat and perform and present Nigeria as an Eldorado where Nigeria is falling apart. It's impossible, you know. So that's why it surprises me that this is my first comment on Boala's gift. It's not possible to defend Tinubu anywhere. Even if Boala met a secondary school boy, he would say, I've defeated him. In this age of Google and AI, you can Google and find on AI in Nigeria what is happening as it is happening. Now you can use it to confront any of these guys, you know. But the problem that most people have is that you must understand that the Boalas of this world, the Reno Mockeries of this world, it is hunger that drove them to go to the government. So what do you expect them to do? They have to defend their bellies and their esophagus. That's what took them there. Forget about everything they tell you that, oh, I have a flourishing law practice. Now this thing. But if your law practice is flourishing, what are you doing rubbishing yourself and your generations yet unborn? Nobody would do that. Definitely something is not flourishing in your life. That's why you're working with Tinubu. And lastly, I'm even sure that Tinubu himself is surprised that Boala did so terribly bad. But we may not also be surprised that for them, every publicity is good publicity, whether it's good or bad. So they might be praising him. Who knows? With regards to the organ harvesting case, as I told you earlier before the judge came, there is a police report. The Nigeria Police Inspector General's office actually instituted a panel to uncover what was going on after the uproar stemming from the publications and I think Gist Lover, one of the online blogs. And there was a report, but they buried the report because the policemen involved were very highly connected. And but the report, I got hold of some part of the report and was published yesterday. And the report, even though it was trying very hard.
News. The internal crisis within the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has taken a fresh legal turn as the Kabiru Turaki-led faction says it is heading to the Supreme Court to challenge Monday's Court of Appeal judgment. In its judgment, the appellate court barred INEC from recognizing the outcome of the convention, including the emergence of Tanimu Turaki as the party's national chairman. However, the faction led by Kabiru Turaki says the party will participate in the 2027 general election despite its internal crisis. Joining us on this show to discuss the latest appeal court ruling and the PDP's plan to head to the Apex Court is Umar Sani, a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Good morning, Umar Sani, the cat. Good to have you on the morning show.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning. Good morning, Rufai and Ayo.
Good morning, sir.
I'm very delighted to be back on the morning show.
Okay, Umar Sani, the cat. So many issues with the People's Democratic Party. Only two governors left, technically. Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, who we hear may be on his way eventually to the ADC, and then Governor Bala Mohammed, who we also hear may be on his way to the APC. So if the two of them bail out, then who will remain for shop, as they say in pidgin English. Then the ruling by the Court of Appeal. Your faction says it will go to the Supreme Court. Don't you think, or do you agree with the view that the party has just been given an opportunity to reset? The party has just been told by the Court of Appeal that whatever injury the party is suffering is self-inflicted. Because at the root of all of this in the Court of Appeal ruling is that there was a pending ruling by the court saying that Sule Lamido of Jigawa, having gone to court that he was denied the opportunity to have a fair playground, to be given a nomination form to emerge as chairman of the party, amounted to a violation of the PDP constitution, amounted to a violation of his fundamental human rights, and then the court ruled. November 14, I think, 2025, the Court of Justice said Peter Lifo that Ibadan Convention should not go ahead. In law, the principle is that nothing stands on nothing. Ex nihilo, nihil hes. So, but the party went ahead and held that convention. Now the Court of Appeal has returned the party to that background to say the rule of law is sacrosanct. You laid a foundation of nothing. Now you have to go back. So that means the injury is self-inflicted. What do you think?
Well, let me address the last one before addressing the first issue you raised about the way forward. Now, these are the issues we are trying to formulate to the Supreme Court, if necessary. That some of these things and some of the arguments we have put forward was jettisoned by the Court of Appeal. They did not look at the wisdom of our argument and why we took certain decisions. In the Sule Lamido case, it is very clear that Sule Lamido came to buy form on the day that it was scheduled for the return of completed forms. And the party had already scheduled sale of forms under the Convention Planning Committee, which headquarters was domiciled at our other office, our annex, which is the Legacy House. And Sule Lamido went to Wadata Plaza to purchase form on the final day for the submission of sale of forms. You know, even with that argument, the court played deaf to our argument, and we felt that the court erred in law by not listening to us. You know, even at that, the court didn't say that we should not go ahead. They said we should open a room for him to participate in the convention. So, and we felt opening a room for him to participate when he has not even obtained a form is against our standing rules of the party, against the constitution of our party. And the court is saying every decision is taken is reliant on our constitution. And yet, it is jettisoning this very important aspect of our constitution. So we felt these are issues, you know, clearly for determination by the Supreme Court. Again, the way forward, where you raised this fundamental issue, is that an Ibadan Court of Appeal, you know, we have approached two Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeal, Abuja Division, which had just passed its judgment, and the Ibadan Court of Appeal, which today is the day for its sitting. In the wisdom of the presiding judge in the Court of Appeal, he said, PDP, you are a family. The court has no power to intervene in your matter. Go and settle and come back. Bring out the names you have settled. Then we now take it and then stamp an authority over it, and it becomes our judgment. And on the basis of that, the NWC and the BOT met yesterday to formulate 3 grounds where the party will be heading to. The first is that the possibility for us to go to the Supreme Court, which will now be debated today. The second one, I wish to keep it because it's our strategy. You know, it's not supposed to be let out of the bag. But the last one is to embrace the issue of reconciliation as propounded by the courts. Now, these are the three issues that will be debated today at the expanded meeting of the our NEC meeting today. And then decisions taken there will now be forwarded. Can you hear me?
Hello? Yeah. Well, just to add, just to remind you of two caveats. Now, the court of Justice Peter Lifo was very clear about the exclusion of Sule Lamido. The court said that, he had to be not just accommodated, he or any other person should not have been excluded. I thought that was clear enough. The second point is that the courts have also said, yes, there's the principle that you don't interfere in the internal affairs of the political parties, as I've cited in the Anyanwu case, in the Labour Party case, and also in Onoha case. However, the court also says that where fundamental human rights of a member of the party is violated, then of course the court can intervene. Or where the constitution of the party has been violated, the court can also intervene. The Court of Appeal in Abuja is more or less saying that when PDP went from the Court of Justice Peter Lifu to Ibadan, that will amount to forum shopping. So these, I think, are some of the technical details. So you can jump from one court to the other to nullify the ruling of the other court of coordinate jurisdiction. That's forum shopping. And a responsible judge, will not want to accept that.
Dr. Abati, let me clarify. Certain things are not, maybe known to you. In the Ibadan High Court, it was a contestant for the office of National Deputy Organizing Secretary, is Folayan or something, that took the party to court. It was not the party that went to Ibadan looking for somebody, a judge, to give a favorable judgment. He was the one that took us to court, saying that he will suffer some injury if that convention does not take place, and that he is appealing to the court to ensure that that convention takes place, so that the amount of investments he has made to contest that election, since he has been screened everything, that the court should ensure that that convention holds. And that is on the basis of the fact that, so there was no anywhere where we went to court. In the Justice Omotosho issue, we didn't go to court. In Justice Lifu's issue, we didn't go to court. We were all sued. So we were responding to the outcomes of those issues. And for your information, in Kabiru Tenimu Traki did not participate in the convention alone. It was not an unopposed thing. He contested alongside somebody from Katsina, and the scores were counted. The other person got some votes, and he got some votes. So the thing was open. For the other person bought the form at the prescribed time, and Kabiru Tanimu Traki bought the form at the prescribed time. It was only Sule Lamido who didn't buy the form at the prescribed time. So the issue is not the judgment, but the technicality behind the judgment. Now, if you are not a participant, you did not even buy form to participate, and then the court will now direct us. It means that the court is becoming a meddlesome interloper in a matter that had already been settled internally.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Now, I would like to bring to your to the conversation this morning a view expressed by a former Senate president and also a chieftain of the PDP, Senator Bukola Saraki, who's of the opinion that let's just end the matter here with the appeal court decision, bearing in mind that you have a limited timeline with regards to the INEC guidelines, and if there are any chances or any hopes of the PDP being able to present candidates for the 2027 elections, or perhaps not to jeopardize the opportunity or chances of potential candidates, let's just find a way to work together as a party ahead of the elections. What do you think that is wisdom at play? And if you do agree with this, would you be willing to find a way to work with the Wike faction for a national convention in the interest of the party?
Well, the issue of a national convention, again, will amount to double jeopardy. They are saying our convention, and then they want to hold a convention. On what premise will they hold a convention? First, the subject matter of the convention, which are the people who claim to have derived that authority to give them legitimacy within their camp, were now confirmed by the appeal court as having been suspended at that time and could not have performed any other function relating to the party. So how could they, from where would they derive the authority to go now and do a convention? This is the issue. What Bukola is saying, apart from this area of where he said we should join them in convention, any other area, I believe, is in tandem with the thinking of the party. Because, like I told you, 3 issues were formulated. One was to approach the Supreme Court. There was a second one, and then the third one, to embrace reconciliation as propounded by the Court of Appeal in Ibadan, which is supposed to sit today and deliberate on the matter.
By the way, just to mention that the second part of the question wasn't from... Sorry, Mr. Sani. The second part of the question, so that I don't misquote Senator Saraki, he had said for a fresh convention. I then asked the question around, would you be willing to work, if you agree with Senator Saraki, would you be willing to then work with the Wike faction? That was the question I asked, so that I'm not accused of misquoting him. But there was a convention that's now been termed as illegal at the appeal court because, you know, this whole convention matter, one has to be held. And the one that was held in November, at the moment, is said to be illegal, except you do go ahead to pursue the matter before the Supreme Court and based on their judgment. Would it not be wise at this time for the PDP, in saving the soul of the party, to find a way to organize a fresh, convention and just accept what the appeal court has ruled?
Like I said, if they say they are hosting a convention, which is what I argued, or they are saying that the party should now sit down and do another fresh convention, at what point will we be able to meet all these INEC guidelines? Because primaries is scheduled for 23rd April to 30th March. So to 30th May. So how do we meet those people? It means it is either they are calling us to join their own convention, which has no derivable legitimacy, or they are calling us to settle in accordance with the provisions of the judgment of the advice of the Court of Appeal in Ibadan. These are the 2 areas I'm saying will suffice.
So, have you guys got the CTC now? Would you be going to the Supreme Court? Do you know when the Supreme Court will be able to come back with a ruling on that matter? That's one. Number 2, can you go back and explain to me the technicality of Sule Lamido not getting the form and others getting the form before Sule Lamido? Are you people saying that the place or the time for getting the form was already closed? Because there was a lot that happened there that we don't understand.
Okay. The first one, let me go to the first one. Whether if they decide, because like I told you, the decision is theirs. They are now sitting, and trying to decide which option to take of the 3 options like I mentioned. Now, if they decide to go to the Supreme Court, nobody has the assurance that this is when the Supreme Court, and they are not even bounded by time, because this is a civil matter. The Supreme Court can decide to look at it, even at a later hour. But perhaps due to the urgency of the matter, which I'm sure the litigants will file an affidavit of urgency, urging the Supreme Court to take quick decision on the matter. But where they do take decision or they don't take decision, the issue we are trying to face now is not the existential threat of not participating in the election, but trying to put the soul of the party in a proper shape and form. And as it is now, it is like the party is not being driven by anybody. The party is just standing, it's a standalone party, not driven by any side. Because the authority which the wicked people said they had, and with which they had formed all their board of trustees and NWC was quashed because the court maintained and affirmed that those people were under suspension at that time and could not have performed any legitimate function of the party. So the party is left with no other alternative than to reconcile. And that reconciliation, to me, will be best with the advice of the Ibadan Court of Appeal, where it says we should go and sit down, look at the list, adjust the things, and then bring them. And then they will adopt it and pass it as a judgment because it is agreeable to both parties.
Okay, the second question I asked, the intricacies.
Then the second
around Lamido not even getting the form in the first place.
The second one you asked me, okay, the circumstances surrounding Sule Lamido not getting the form in the first instance is that the party published dates of sales of form. And those who were interested, like Senator Lado from Katsina, bought the form. Kabiru Tenimu Turaki bought the form at the prescribed time. There was a time for filling and submission of forms. It was when the time came for the filling and submission of the form that Sule Lamido now showed interest to contest. And so by showing his interest to contest, he now went to Wadata. I don't want to say they arranged with Bature and Anyao, but he went to Wadata to go and meet the people who are not in charge of sales of form. Well, he went to meet the national secretary, who is not in charge of sales of form.
Umar Sani.
Yes.
Where does this leave the PDP?
I can hear you.
I had argued earlier that it doesn't look like the PDP has any strong prospect in the presidential election. Maybe at the lower levels, governorship, House of Assembly, you may still be lucky for the party to make some effort. But the presidential election, the PDP has already lost it, don't you think?
We still have... we still have a presidential aspirants, like Hashim is a presidential aspirant. He has been working tirelessly to broker peace.
No, it's not about having a presidential aspirant. It's about having somebody that has weight and that will make impact. You can field anybody. You yourself can run. Won't that amount to a joke?
Dr. Abati, I know where you are heading to. But what I'm telling you, in essence, is that it depends on the war chest of the people who want to contest. Because contest is not about length of time. It's about preparation before the time and be able to know what you want at the time. And then gather your
war chest.
Okay.
You use the word war chest. So presidential election is about money.
Yes.
The biggest, the man with
the fattest war chest, the biggest war chest, the fattest person. Thank you so much, Mr. Sani. We are out of time. Thank you.